I remember sitting at my desk one morning, just staring at my screen and thinking, I cannot do this for one more day. And honestly, that feeling scared me more than anything else ever had. Welcome to Let's Talk Real English, the podcast where we have real conversations in natural English, so you can learn while you actually listen to something meaningful. I'm Lara.
And I'm Eric, and today we are talking about something that a lot of people think about, but maybe are afraid to say out loud. Should you quit your job or stay?
Yeah, honestly, this is such a big topic. Like, it touches on money, emotions, your identity. Your job is a huge part of your daily life, right? We are going to get into all of it today. And if you are a B1 or B2 English learner, this episode is perfect for you. The language is clear, natural, and real. So let's get into it.
So, Laura, I want to start with something kind of personal actually, because you mentioned that feeling of sitting at your desk and just not wanting to be there. I think a lot of people know that feeling, but how do you know when it's serious? How do you know when it's not just a bad day?
Right, that's such a good question. And I think the honest answer is that it becomes serious when it's not just one bad day. It's like every day, you know? When you wake up and the first feeling you have is dread, that word dread means a strong fear or worry about something that's going to happen, and that feeling is about going to work, that's a real sign.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the key thing there is the word pattern. One bad day, one bad week, that can happen to anyone in any job. But when it becomes a pattern, when it's consistent, that's when you need to pay attention.
Totally. And you know, one of the biggest things people deal with is a toxic workplace. And I want to talk about that because I think sometimes people don't even realize their workplace is toxic. They just think, oh, this is just how work is. You know what I mean?
Right, right. So let's actually define that for our listeners. A toxic workplace. Toxic means something that is harmful or poisonous. So, a toxic workplace is an environment where people are treated badly, where there is a lot of stress, maybe bullying, or where the management, the people in charge, don't respect their employees.
And the thing is, it can be really subtle sometimes. Like, it's not always someone shouting at you or being obviously mean. Sometimes it's more like your ideas are always ignored, or your boss takes credit for your work. Or there's just this kind of underlying tension all the time, where you always feel a little bit on edge.
And that's actually a really important point. When your job starts affecting your physical or mental health, that is a serious sign. Your body is telling you something. And I think people sometimes ignore that because they feel like, well, I need this job. I need the money. I can't just leave.
Which brings us to like the biggest thing that stops people from leaving: financial fear. And honestly, I completely understand it. Like, money is real. Bills are real. It's not just about being brave or not brave.
Exactly. And I want to be clear about this. Financial fear is completely rational. It makes total sense to be worried about money. The way I see it, the problem is not having the fear. The problem is letting the fear make all your decisions for you without you ever actually sitting down and looking at the real numbers.
What do you mean by that?
So, a lot of people think, I can't quit, I'll have no money, but they haven't actually calculated, figured out the exact numbers, how long they could actually survive without that job. Do they have some savings? Could they reduce some expenses? Expenses are your regular costs like rent, food, subscriptions. Could they find a part-time job to cover the basics while they look for something better?
Right. And I think this connects to the passion versus stability question, which is like one of the big debates, right? Like, should you do what you love, even if it's risky, or should you stay in the stable, secure job, even if you're not passionate about it?
And I think this is where people get a little stuck in two extreme camps. Either follow your passion, money doesn't matter, which is honestly kind of unrealistic advice, or passion doesn't pay the bills. Just be grateful you have a job, which is also kind of.
Dismissive. Yeah, like it dismisses the fact that spending 40 hours a week doing something you genuinely hate has a real cost. Not just an emotional cost, but a physical cost, a creativity cost, a life cost.
Exactly. And by the way, dismissive is a great B2 word. It means treating something as if it's not important or not worth thinking about. And yeah, I think the reality is somewhere in the middle. You don't have to love every single thing about your job, but you need to find some meaning in it, or at least not hate it every single day.
Okay, so let me talk about actual signs that it might be time to leave. The first big one is when you stop growing, like when there's no opportunity to learn new things, to move up, to improve your skills. Because if you're standing still in your career, you're kind of going backwards in a way. The world keeps moving, you know?
That's a really solid point. And another one I'd add is when your values, the things that are most important to you, no longer match the company's values. Like if you care deeply about honesty and your company's kind of asking you to be dishonest with customers, that's a serious conflict.
Yes, and honestly, another one, which maybe sounds small but isn't, is when you stop caring about the quality of your work. Like when you used to take pride in doing things well, and now you just want to get it done and go home. That emotional disconnection, that kind of pulling away, is really telling.
Totally. And there is actually a word for that. It's called disengagement. To be disengaged from your work means you're physically there, but emotionally and mentally, you've kind of checked out. And studies show that disengaged workers are less productive and less happy, which is bad for everyone.
Right. Okay, but let's talk about the other side too, because I don't want our listeners to feel like, oh, I had one bad week, time to quit. So, what are some signs that maybe you should actually stay?
Yeah, great. So, one big sign that you should maybe stay, at least for now, is if the problems you're facing are temporary. Like there's a really difficult project right now, or the company went through a hard period, but things are improving. If the situation is getting better, it might be worth giving it more time.
That's a good one. And also, if you have not actually tried to change the situation, like have you talked to your manager? Have you asked for different responsibilities or more flexibility? Sometimes people want to quit without first trying to fix things. And, that conversation might go better than you expect.
Absolutely. And another reason to stay, at least strategically, is if you are building something. Like if you are gaining experience, skills, or connections, connections means professional relationships that will help you get a better job later. Sometimes you stay not because a job is great, but because it's a stepping stone. A stepping stone is something that helps you get to the next better place.
And I also want to bring up something called the grass is greener trap, because I think this goes both ways. For our listeners, the grass is greener on the other side is an English expression. It means you always think that other people's situations are better than yours. So you think that other job, that other company, that other city, it must be so much better. But sometimes it's not.
Right. And I've seen this happen. Someone quits a job because they think the next one will be perfect. And then they get there and they find different problems. Maybe the pay is better, but the team is difficult. Or the work is more interesting, but the hours are terrible. Every job has something, you know?
Totally. And I think the trap is when you're running away from something rather than running towards something. Like if your only reason to leave is I hate this place, that's different from I have a clear vision of what I want next and I'm going to go get it.
Very true. And which is funny because the people who do that self reflection, who actually ask themselves the hard questions, they tend to make much better decisions about their careers. They don't just jump from one thing to another randomly.
So let's talk about that, making a plan before you quit. Because I think a lot of people either stay forever out of fear or they quit impulsively, which means making a quick decision without thinking it through. And then they regret it. And there's a smarter way to do it.
Absolutely. So, the first thing I would say is before you quit, try to have something lined up. Lined up means arranged and ready. So, ideally, you have already started looking at other opportunities, maybe had some interviews, maybe gotten an offer. Leaving one job to go to another is always better than just leaving and hoping something appears.
And I know that's not always possible. Like, if your workplace is truly toxic and affecting your health, sometimes you have to leave first. But even then, try to give yourself a financial cushion. That means some savings to live on before you make the jump.
Right. And another practical thing, update your resume before you quit. Your resume is the document that describes your work experience and skills. Start building or updating your professional profile. Talk to people in your network. Your network is the group of professional contacts you know. Tell them quietly that you're open to new opportunities.
And honestly, one thing I'd add that people don't talk about enough, think about what you actually want from your next job before you start looking. Like, make a list. What kind of environment do you want? What kind of work? What is important to you? Salary, flexibility, the team, the mission? Because if you know what you're looking for, you're so much less likely to just grab the first thing that comes along.
And I think the key word there is decision, not a reaction, a decision. There's a difference between reacting to a bad situation and making a thoughtful, planned decision about your future. And the second one, the planned one, almost always goes better.
I love that. Okay, let's do a quick recap for our listeners. Reviewing key vocabulary is really good for memory, right?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so key takeaway number one, a toxic workplace is an environment where you are treated badly, disrespected, or where your health is suffering. If that's happening consistently, it's a serious sign.
Key takeaway number two, financial fear is normal and valid, but don't let it be the only voice in your head. Look at your real numbers. Make an actual plan. Fear feels bigger than it actually is when you sit down and look at the facts.
Number three, passion versus stability is not always an either-or choice. You don't have to love every part of your job, but you do need some meaning, some growth, and to not feel like you are disappearing as a person.
Key takeaway number four, signs it's time to leave include no growth, values that don't match, health being affected, and feeling completely disengaged from your work. Signs to stay include temporary problems, not yet trying to change things, and using the job strategically as a stepping stone.
Number five, watch out for the grass is greener trap. Ask yourself, am I running away from something, or am I running towards something better, something I have actually thought about and planned for?
And number six, if you do decide to quit, make a plan first. Try to have another opportunity lined up. Build a financial cushion, update your resume, talk to your network, and know what you actually want from your next chapter.
I love that, your next chapter, because that's really what it is, right? It's not an ending, it's just a new chapter. And whatever you decide, to stay or to go, make sure it's your decision, one you've thought about, one you own. And to our English learners listening today, thank you so much for spending this time with us. This kind of real, natural conversation is exactly the listening practice that will help your English grow. And if today's episode made you think about your own work situation, we'd love to hear from you. Details are in the description. We read everything.
Take care of yourselves, everyone. This has been Let's Talk Real English. I'm Eric.
And I'm Laura. See you in the next episode. Bye for now.